And a very good evening to you, and welcome to Politics 101 on a beautiful Wednesday evening in Guyana. As usual, another busy day in the politics of our country. Our president and vice president are visiting in Washington, and the um, divisional heads of the FBI and we understand the CIA and the Southern Command are visiting Guyana. Never a dull day for politics in our country. And that happens when you become embroiled in geopolitics. So we're going to be talking tonight, not politics. We're going to be talking about banking and entrepreneurship. So please share the link. Please share the link. We are, our special guest tonight is Mr. Floyd Haynes, who is the owner of the recently launched Merchant Bank, New Haven Incorporated Merchant Bank. Mr. Haynes is going to be talking to us here about why the bank, what the bank is doing, all of that kind of stuff. And then we'll talk a little bit about entrepreneurship and so on. We want a full house tonight, of course. Please do. Welcome to Politics 101. You're joining us from North America. Welcome. If you're in Maryland, a special shout out to you. Used to be my home and still is my home. Most of my siblings and so on are there. If you're joining us from New York, Brooklyn, Queens, some of you out there in Boston, welcome to Politics 101. If you're joining us from Canada, welcome to Politics 101. Those of you who are in Ontario, in the Toronto metropolitan area, welcome to Politics 101. You all don't like the cold, so many of you will not be for the north, New Brunswick and those cold places. I don't think that many of you would be there. Welcome if you're joining us from Guyana, from the quarantine, West Coast Babis, East Coast Demerara, Georgetown and East Bank, the West Side. You know, we don't say West Coast and West Bank these days, the West Side. You know, and he always would say, you know, once you pass Burusiri, you end up on West Coast anymore. You're gone into the East Bank of Essequibo. But now, from Parika come right back to Wales is the West Side. All you good people from the West Side, our good friends in Denhamstel, Stroudville, welcome. And I noticed my friend Donette is joining us from Pennsylvania, PA, Pennsylvania, one of the founding states at the time the United States was born. So welcome if you're joining us from Linden, if you're joining us from Linden, wherever you are in Linden, Region 10, how about our good people out there in Kokoni and Ituni? Welcome to Politics 101. And of course, beautiful people from Golden Grove, holding the fort. Desiree from Maryland, my fellow Marylander. Welcome, Desiree, down to Politics 101. Mr. Floyd Haynes is going to be here. I want us to show him some love as we always do. He was here before in the early days of the program, so he's not a stranger. Later on, towards the end of the program, we'll have Mr. Ganesh Maipal joining us to talk about that protest by the APNU, AFC, and WPA planned for the 2nd of August, next week, Tuesday. Mr. Maipal is going to be here later on to talk about that. But our focus tonight is on banking. It's the first license for a bank that was given in 20 years. 20 years. So it must be something special. Welcome to you out there in the Caribbean, St. Martin. St. Martin, Dutch or English, whichever one you're at. Good people, good friends from the Bahamas, Antigua, many of us Guyanese are there, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Kitts, Nevis. Some of you are in Anguilla, a beautiful little island. And of course, lots of us in Barbados. Lots of us in Bar, you all are obviously preparing there for crop over in a couple of days. Crop over in Barbados, you know. And the Barbadians say you walk it up, walk up, walk up, walk up, walk up. Barbados, you know, we're cousins. Because at the end of enslavement, lots of Barbadians came to Guyana as indentured laborers. My surname, meaning my people, came from Barbados. So we're family. We're family, Barbadians and Guyana. So welcome to those of you who are joining us from Barbados. I see Sister Allison is joining us from, I assume, Toronto via Queenstown on the Essequibo coast. How about the good people on the Essequibo coast, Queenstown, Danielstown, Anna Regina, all the way down to Charity, Dartmouth, of course, special place, special place. And those of you who join us from the islands, Wakanam, Leguan, Fort Island, Hog Island, how about good people down there in Bartica, Bartica, Bartica. Welcome to all. And no, I am not forgetting our brothers and sisters in Cayenne, French Guyana, French Guyana. And of course, those of you who are in Paramaribo, Suriname, what we used to call Dutch Guyana in the old days. You know, people from Dutch Guyana and French Guyana and Barbados and Lucia and St. Vincent, they used to come to Guyana. Come to Guyana. Madia is full out. Full out, St. Lucia. My brother Owen Newton is watching from Buxton. Partner, you in Buxton now for about, well, you're in Guyana. For about 3 weeks, I'm counting. And you haven't touched base with me. I haven't seen you. Every time I ask, where you there? They say you're staying at a big shop place in Portugal. But must touch base with me in Buxton. And Lynette is joining us from Maryland. Vibert White, Vibert, our main man in Grove on the East Bank. You have plenty Grove, you know. Golden Grove on the East Bank, Golden Grove on the East Coast, Golden Grove, West Bobbies, plenty Grove. And if you go through the Caribbean, almost every Caribbean island got a Golden Grove. It shows that we have had a common history. Please share the link. You all are not doing well. Please share the link because it's a big show tonight. We're going to be talking money. We're going to be talking about banking. This here tonight is not the politics night. But towards the end, we're going to be talking about the political rally. But we're going to be talking about money tonight. So welcome all of you to Politics 101. We do what we do on this program because we believe it's important. We refer to ourselves not simply as social media. I would like to refer to us as alternative media. On this program, we teach, we learn, we mobilize, we go where others don't want to go. You see, we are teachers, griots, come from a long tradition of teaching the world. You know, the Greeks, you know, Western civilization. They like to say Western civilization began with the Greeks, Aristotle and Plato and Socrates and so on. We got to learn them things in university. But those Greeks learned everything they learned from the Egyptians. Aristotle learned a lot from the Egyptians. The Nile Valley is emancipation time, so we could talk some Africanism, you know. So the Greeks did not invent civilization. Africa is the cradle of civilization. The cradle of civilization is Africa. And we've always been teachers. First university in the world, Timbuktu. Timbuktu. Yes. Yes. The first university in the world. No, we ain't boasting, but we got big we self up. Because somewhere, somebody said we didn't have history. Somebody said our history began with enslavement. But there were kingdoms long before Western civilization. It doesn't mean that we are superior, you know, but we got to blow our own horn because somebody sought to shut us out. If many people had their way, we would not have been here today. We survived the trek from interland Africa to the shores of Africa. And we survived the Middle Passage. And we survived the auction block. We survived the plantation. We survived colonialism. We survived neocolonialism, and we're still here to tell the story. And those of us who've been fortunate enough to have seen the world and to have had some opportunities that the majority was denied. We are here to tell that story in 2022. And our brother who we're going to be talking to owns a bank. He wasn't given a favor as the impression is being given. He had to do what everybody else had to do to get a bank. And yes, we were bankers too. Yes, we come from a tradition of banking too. We still have our indigenous bank, the Baxan. I take part in box too. I do it, you know. So we understand something about banking. We understand something about banking. We are teachers. We are teachers. They like to say, these fellas on Facebook, the Attorney General complained to the Americans for us and tell the Americans we are spreading terrorism. Well, look what we're talking about. Dahomey and Chad and Timbuktu and the Nile Valley. Is that terrorism? Is that inciting racism? We have been the victims of racism. And if the victims of racism are now charged with racial hostility, something is radically wrong. We are constantly having to look over our shoulders because of our skin color, because this color has been given meaning. It's been given meaning. We constantly have to defend this color. We constantly have to affirm this color. The first black president, the first black this, the first black that. You know why? Because somebody said there was never going to be a first black anything that is black. We got to celebrate ourselves. We got to celebrate ourselves. My brother Stokely Carmichael once said that the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act in the United States, passed in 1964 and 1965, was not meant for Black Americans. Because Black Americans always knew that they were free, always knew that they were human beings. It was meant for the other section of the society who did not know and did not want to know that the darkness among us were human beings too. Oh, it's emancipation. 184 years. Our progress has been up and down. We have had to fight against all the waves. We've had to fight against the Philistines. We've had to fight against those who would want us buried, those who said that we could not exist in a state of freedom. But here we are. Here we are. Here we are, 184 years later, 18 and a half decades. We're here to tell the story. We've survived. Brother Bob said we are the survivors, the Black survivors. We have survived like Daniel survived the lion's den. Lions have tried to stand in our way, but we have produced our own lions. As we say triumphantly, the Lion of Judah shall break every chain and give us the victory again and again. The Black Stallion said nothing can come easy. So when the black man get a little something, he got to hold on to his little something. Because nothing come easy. To get beyond freedom, we had to go to England for some woman to tell we free. Nothing can come easy. Nothing comes easy. So when we achieve, we must raise our voices to the mountaintop, to the mountaintop. Brother Martin Luther King said, I've been to the mountaintop and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but we as a people will get there. Every day we wake up and we contribute to humanity. We are in the promised land. The promised land. The process. It's a process. But please share the link, and we're going to be talking about some achievement here tonight, because we must talk about the achievement. I am glad that those who are our detractors come onto this program. They come, they cuss, they carry on. But I'm sure they learn. And I'm sure they take it back, because they monitor our programs to see that we strive here. We strive here for dignity. Well, George McAndrew used to say, we get learning, we get education. We got learning and we got education, and that's what we spread here. That's what we deal with. That's what we deal with. Those who feel that we come here to waste time, they're wasting time. I invite them all to come down here so that we can grow together, we can learn together, we can teach together, and we can survive together. We have never been stingy with our achievement. When we came out of enslavement, we lent the slave masters money when they went bankrupt. Yes, we have never been stingy with our love. When we became free, when we freed ourselves from the shackles of slavery, we made sure that our sisters and brothers who were coming after, they came free, not slaves. We are not stingy. And when we freed ourselves and we built our churches and our schools, and we began to teach, we didn't teach only our own, we taught everyone. We are not stingy. We are not. And that's the tradition That's the African tradition that I'm proud of. And that's the African tradition I try to pass on. We are people too. We dump upon us thousands of shovels of mud. They said the Dutch built the seawall. Whose labor? African labor. African labor. We tamed the interior as we went looking for gold and diamond. We made our contribution to this country, to this region, to this civilization. Brother Rex Netherford said, we may not have built big skyscrapers. What we give to the world is our mind, our mind, our mind, our collective mind. Creative intellect, creative imagination, the creative intellect, the creative imagination. What go wrong so must come back wrong so. Our foreparents, many of them couldn't read and write, but they could reason. They could reason. And that is why they came out of the plantation today, and tomorrow they were in the marketplace buying and selling. Oh God, we are entrepreneurs too. Couldn't read and write, but they built schools so that their children could read and write. And I feel so proud tonight as a black man. The power of knowledge gives you the power of love. The power of love. Tonight we're going to be talking money. Because you know what? We have been dismoneyed. I think I have the right. I've earned the right to make up my own word. We have been dismoneyed. And if we're going to move forward in this great time, we have to be demoneyed. Remoneyed, sorry. We were demoneyed. We got to be remoneyed. We have never used money to oppress other people. We have never used money to rape other people. We can be trusted with money because our monies built villages. That's what we use our money for. We are not mindless capitalists. A merchant's bank. A merchant's bank. From 1838 to 2022, we have survived. We have survived. Brother Floyd, good evening.
Good evening, David. You're on fire.
Well, yes, and you and I used to ground with a man called Clarence Ellis from Queenstown.
Yes, indeed. Queenstown Essequibo. Clarence was
and he always taught us that we have to think big.
Yes.
He was an economist.
Elder Clarence Ellis, a brilliant man.
Clarence Ellis. All of us used to run with him in Maryland. And when I left, we used to talk every Saturday for 3-4 hours.
And yes.
And a lot of what I have learned about modern economics, I learned is think big. Think big. Brother, congratulations on behalf of Politics 101.
Thank you much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, David.
In creating another institutional pillar You know what, Guyana? Because your bank is not a black bank.
No.
Your bank is a Guyanese bank.
Yes, yes.
And that's where I want to start. Where did you get the vision for this big thing? You weren't creating a little pawn shop at the corner. You weren't creating a place where you can go and get a short-term loan. You were thinking big.
Yes.
A little country, small population, but you were thinking big. Where the inspiration came from?
A very good question, David. Let me introduce myself. Some of you in the listening audience know me, but for those of you who don't know me, let me take a couple of seconds or so to introduce myself. I'm Floyd Haynes, Guyanese, son of the soil, born and raised in Guyana, grew up under conditions that can best be described as bankruptcy of opportunity. That is a fancy phrase or a euphemism for poor. I grew up poor, migrated to the US, and I started an accounting firm. I built a successful accounting firm based in Washington, D.C., which boasts among some of our clients the US State Department, the USAID, and many others. We have provided financial and accounting support to those organizations as well as many others. So I built a successful business providing finance and accounting work. I am no stranger to Guyana. It is no secret. I am not a member of any political party, but I have supported PNC as well as the AFC from the days of Mr. Hoyt all the way down to current. I have supported financially as well as others, both the PNC and the Alliance for Change. And again, it's no secret. I have also supported a couple of ministers in the previous administration. I worked closely with Minister Trotman, who is still a good friend, and Minister Gaskin. So again, I am no stranger to Guyana. I served in the current government's local content advisory panel. And now I am the project lead for the cost recovery audit of the ExxonMobil contract. We are doing the audit of ExxonMobil's claim costs. So that's sort of a little sketch, a background of who I am. I didn't just wake out and crawl from under a rock and decided to show up in Guyana. So why the bank? Why now? I have been thinking for a long time that once it was clear that Guyana was on a different trajectory post-oil, post the discovery of oil, I looked at where the country was and where the country needed to go. And if you look at that picture, what you will see, or what emerges clearly, is that there is a gap. There isn't sufficient money in the country to finance the transformation and development of Guyana. There simply isn't. If you take all the money in all the banks in Guyana, it's still not enough. A lot of people don't know this. And all the oil money, again, still isn't enough. So I saw that there is a huge gap, or a financial, or what we call a capital gap. Now, some of that capital will come from multilateral institutions, the World Bank, the IDB, Caribbean Development Bank, and so on. Some of it may come from friendly governments. But a large part of that capital will come from private enterprise. And I thought, why not me? Why not create an institution? I know a little bit about finance and accounting. Why not create an institution that can be the source of that finance? I would be remiss in saying that if I didn't mention that I got tremendous words of support and encouragement from the current president and vice president. They supported me in words. They encouraged me to, Floyd, go for it, apply for it, and don't give up. And so I applied. It has been a labor of love. I waited 2 years, David, 2 years. Come November will be 2 years since I began the application process. And over a series of 2 years, there were various iterations. You need this form, you need that form. This is not complete, that's not complete. You need to fill this out. You need your tax forms, your police clearance in Guyana, your police clearance in America, your property, oh, and on and on and on. It was a labor of love. I could have given up. There's several steps along the way. I said, you know what? It's just not worth it. I've done okay. I live in Maryland. I'm retired. My kids are grown. I could have said, listen, enough is enough. But I persevered and I provided every single thing the central bank asked me for. So I'm fully vetted and I came out clean. And then finally, we were granted the license. But it's the need that I saw to provide the much needed capital to finance the transformation and development of Guyana. That is where I got the impetus from, because I figure in the oil boom and expansion, what role can you play, Floyd? And the vice president said to me, he says, Floyd, you have a finance background. That's probably where you should go. And I said, yes, I know banking, I know finance. That's what I'll pursue. So that's where I got it was that identifying that gap and believing that I could play a role. Of course, I had done lots of stuff in the States. And I am not, those of you know me, that I am not constrained by any limited view of myself or of Afro-Guyanese. I just don't buy into those things. I dream big, I think big, and I pray in it, and I just charge forward.
Why a merchant bank and not a commercial, other kind of commercial bank? Why a merchant bank?
Very good question. Very good question. So let me sort of see if I could do a very back of the envelope explanation. So a retail bank, which is the bank most people know, your GBTI, Citizens Bank, Scotiabank, Republic, those are called retail banks or commercial banks. What they do, they collect monies from people like you, me, the audience, individuals, whatever little you use your money to live, and then whatever little you have leftovers, you put it into a savings account at those banks. Those banks take that money and they go and lend it to others at a very high interest rate. That's the model. They take your savings, you, me, the audience, whoever has a little bit of savings, they pool it and they lend it out at a very high interest rate. They pay us a low interest rate, they lend it out at a high interest rate. The difference is what they make as profit. That's a retail bank. A merchant bank has a similar model, except we don't take money from individuals. We take money from institutions. Pool those monies together and we lend to other institutions, to businesses to help startup, growth, expansion, scaling, and all of the above. So a merchant bank, unlike a retail bank, we take money from insurance companies, pension schemes, high net worth individuals. We take institutional money, pool it together, and then make those monies available to businesses. So in other words, we're the gap between institutions with money and businesses that need money. And we're the intermediary through which we make investments in those businesses. And the idea is that we can get a return on those investments and pay the individuals back their money with some return. So it's the same concept as a retail bank, except it's at a much larger scale. And we're geared towards businesses and business enterprise. You know, most retail banks aren't designed to finance ventures. And what I mean by that, if you have a great idea, a great business plan, like Mark Zuckerberg, for example, when he started Facebook, he didn't go to a bank. He went to what is called an investment bank, which is a merchant bank in the States is called an investment bank. He went to an investment bank. They raised the money to give him to finance his business. Retail banks are in their charter, and they're very risk averse. They're set up to make mortgage loans, auto loans, small business loans, those types of things. If you've got a brilliant idea, they're likely not going to finance that. They don't have the financing structure. The merchant bank can come in, look at your idea, and say, here is a product that may work for you. So we have a wider variety of financial instruments that we can lend to business, to startup, to growth, for expansion. The other thing we're doing that most merchant banks don't do, we are going to have a micro lending facility within the bank. And we're going to compete with the likes of iPad and these others that are charging astronomical rates. But a micro lending is going to be a facility within the bank that's going to be specifically geared towards the small businessman and woman. Farming, fishing, whatever you're into at a small scale. You can come to the bank and we will review your ideas and fund it. We also are going to provide, in addition to just funding, a merchant bank provides management advisory service. We will help you with your business plan. We will help you with your SWOT analysis. We will help you think through your marketing strategy. We may even provide skills and those types of things that you may not have. Most small businesses, for example, are sorely lacking in the finance and the accounting department. We will provide those type of support. So it's not just giving you money and say, that's been tried before and it doesn't work. There's I can tell you there's a bunch of things where you just give people money and all of a sudden they're supposed to go off and make it work. It doesn't happen like that. They need, in addition to the funding, they need support, structural support, institutional support and the like. And we're going to be able to provide that as well.
Then Floyd Haynes, the owner of the newly launched New Haven Incorporated merchant bank, talking to us about the idea, what the bank is set up to do, how you can benefit from it. And I say you, by you, I mean the working people. And that's where I'm going to take Floyd now. So I'm interested in that, what you call the small section, the micro section. Is that specifically geared to, let's say, small businesses?
That's exactly right. Okay. Specifically for the small businesses. In addition to that, there are several other products we're doing for this, quote, small man. Because again, that's where I come from and that's where I want to return. I don't forget from where I came. We're going to create something called a unit trust. And that is essentially an instrument that would allow individuals who've got a little extra savings to buy a unit in the trust and earn a return for their monies. Right now, you know, if you've got a little bit of extra money, you go put it into the bank and you get nothing for it. And they take your money and loan it out to somebody else. I mean, which is okay. It's not a bad model. That's the banking system. But there has to be, seems like to me, there has to be some competing products or alternative products where an individuals with a little bit extra can say, okay, let me invest in something safe that can provide a decent return, perhaps if not for me, for my offspring, my kids, right, and so on. So we're going to be rolling that out as well. So money's available to finance small ventures and some kind of financial instrument that would allow small depositors to invest in some sort of a unit trust. And again, we're flushing it out as we speak. But it's definitely going to be geared, while we're taking care of the big things, the merchants, we're also looking out for the small man.
Looking out for the small man. And of course, that's what we emphasize here on this program, that all of us are Guyanese, where the rich Guyanese are important. But the poor Guyanese, the poor man, the poor woman of all races, all ethnicities, that's where our problem is. We brought with us the legacy of poverty. And up till now, almost 70 odd years after self-government, 50 odd years after independence, we have not put an end on poverty. On poverty. Now, I'm not blaming anybody, because the early post-colonial governments in the Caribbean, they had to deal with things like education. They had to deal with things like healthcare, because they were tasked with turning a plantation into a nation, which was no easy task. But as we move into a world that don't need sugar no more, that don't necessarily need islands anymore. We are tasked, we are tasked with dealing with some structural problems on our own, on our own. Poverty. How do you move from poverty to owning a business? The professor, and Floyd is a professor, quite apart from being a banker and other things. How do you move from poverty to a business owner? Professor?
Yes,
I'm not
sir.
what the professor had now. How do you move from poverty to a business owner? Is that
Well, it starts with the right mindset, right? It's really there's a book I read a long time ago, The Magic of Thinking Big, but it really starts with thinking the right way about this kinds of stuff. And then once you can envision it, you then put together the plan. Now, this is not easy work. Entrepreneurship is not an easy thing. You need certain skills. You need to understand finance, accounting, marketing, but more importantly, you have to have a passion for this stuff. If you don't have a passion for it, it's probably best to go get a job and get a guaranteed salary. You have to have an appetite for risk. I mean, in this venture, I risk all of my capital. All of the monies that has gone into this business has been my money. Let me say that again. All of the monies invested to date has been my monies. People have said, Floyd, are you crazy? You know what you're doing? And I was doing this even before we got the license. But I said that not to brag, but I said that to say that there has to be a healthy appetite for risk taking. It is risk taking is part and parcel of being an entrepreneur. Now, once you have that appetite for risk taking, then you pool your resources. I mean, how many people, you know, it's funny when you talk, everybody's got a great idea that involves your money. Everybody, you can walk, you can go outside and you can get 50 people who give you all the advice in the world with your money. How many people, and then you say to them, okay, you really believe in that. How much will you invest? And then the conversation ends, right? How many people are willing to invest their capital? And that's the beginning of entrepreneurship. And by the way, I believe, because I'm in finance and economics, I really believe that is the true road to Afro-Guyanese, not liberation, we're already liberated, development, transformation and development. I think, listen, there's no one size fits all and there's no one solution. But I will fight the economic fight. I believe the transformation and development will come through economic development within the community. And this bank can play a part of that. You know, so how do we create entrepreneurs? There are lots of entrepreneurs among us. Listen, Washington, D.C. alone, where I live, I can call a dozen entrepreneurs, Afro-Guyanese, who've gone on to build successful businesses. So it's, you know, I mean, this is not new to us, people like Aubrey and myself. And, you know, we can do this stuff, right? But it takes a willingness to risk your capital and also get the support from your brothers and sisters around you. Oftentimes, we don't get the support. You know, this idea, David, this bank idea, and I'll put it out there. This bank idea, I was part of a team under the previous administration. I'm not going politics here at all, but I'm making a point. I was part of a team under the previous administration that applied for a banking license. You see what I'm saying? For whatever reason, it fizzled out and didn't get anywhere. And I was part of another team with big ideas. That big idea you were talking about, it's not new. We've had big ideas. And we've gone to people with big ideas. We have to believe in ourselves enough to finance our own development and transformation. Nobody's going to do it for us, and nobody should do it for us. We have to do it for ourselves. We're quite capable. And that's the kind of transformation and development that I want to be part of. So I think it's the right thinking, the passion, the appetite for risk, and cooperation amongst ourselves. You know, we used to have cooperatives back in the day in the villages and the community. Well, now we can have that same cooperative at a different level. It's the box hand, it's the susu, it's all of that. That's all a bank is. I mean, I'm not oversimplifying it, but it's a box hand at a macro level with some financial strategies in between, right? So the culture and the behavior is already there. Why can't we transform that into something grander? And that's what it's about.
That's what it's about. Of course, one of the complaints about people who get into entrepreneurship, especially people from the lower echelons of the social ladder, it's access to capital. Access to capital. And you've already indicated here that's part of what has driven the idea for this bank. But elaborate on this access to capital, especially in a society like ours that is divided. That the other day I was talking to a young entrepreneur, and he was pulling the hair out of his head, trying to figure out why some certain sections of the community are hostile to him, because he's a businessman, he has to engage in certain networking. And I said to him, brother, we live in a society where money has become racialized. And until we de-racialize money, those who earn a lot of wealth and you belong to a particular ethnic group, you will be looked at suspiciously. I know that's a problem in our community. I know that African Guyanese are not always embracing of black money people, largely because we have racialized money. Over time, come to believe money does not have a black face. Money has a Portuguese face, face, an East Indian face, but not a black face. So when a black person is successful in business, there's a kind of suspicion, sometimes hostility. Talk to me. Have you experienced that?
Oh, yeah.
How do you feel? Because you've already started to talk of, you feel that's the way African Guyanese have to go. How do we break out of that?
I think it's very difficult. So, of course, as a black man, not only in Guyana, in America, I've had to deal with that at various levels. I was telling my wife the other day, when the papers call me or anybody do an interview, they always lead, he went to Harvard and this. And I said to my wife, why do they have to leave? It is as if you've got to justify my presence, And so I don't say any of those things anymore. If you notice, I didn't say while I went here, because nobody ever asked Warren Buffett where he went to school, nobody. But for some reason. So those things aren't important. I said all that to say that you're always going to have those things. Listen, there's going to be racism, discrimination, all of those things, not just in Guyana. It exists in America as well, and it exists in all sectors of the community. You just have to get beyond that. You have to get beyond that. You have to build bridges. You have to lean on people for support. You have to you've got the diaspora, you've got your brothers and sisters in the community. You've just got to find a way to get it done. You can stop and complain about it, but I'm not sure anybody's listening. And you can make a lot of noise about it, but at the end of the day, you've got to continue to push and to get it done. What I can promise you that what we are going to do is to give a fair look at anybody with a business idea that's looking for startup capital. David, banks are businesses, right? And sometimes they're risk averse. Banks themselves may not have the appetite for risk. They may look at, and then people do business with people they know. There is this in group, out group thing. If I know you from the community, And it's only we don't do that. Everybody else does it. If I know you from the community and you're looking for a raise or you're looking to borrow a loan and I have that's how it's done, right? Those are the types of, what I find, there is an element of trust that's lacking amongst us. And if we can reestablish that trust, Clarence and I used to talk about this all the time, then I think you'll find that we have the resources amongst ourselves to solve some of those problems that we're looking for solutions from the outside. We just have to be willing to work with and for each other. I spoke to many folks when I was thinking about the bank idea. A lot of people in the Afro-Guyanese community, and some of it was not very well received. People, here, there. So we've got to get to the point where we can come together as a people, as Guyanese, as Afro-Guyanese, and solve our own problems. It is the whole purpose of independence, right? Independence said you're now okay to go off and do your own thing, but not really, right? I mean,
right. We have a question here from Brother Coffee on this screen here. How can this merchant bank create bigger entrepreneurs of regular market vendors? What is the process?
Bigger entrepreneurs of regular market vendors. Well, there's a couple of things we can do. We can make loans available. That would come under the microcredit facility.
Yes.
But there's another thing I've been thinking about. I may have talked to the president about this, but I find a lot of small businesses, what's going to happen? Small businesses are going to be too small to matter. And so you may have to create a syndicate of small businesses. When I was under the previous government, I had said to someone, there's about 1,000 small miners, and each of them are struggling to eke out, they have a claim here and a claim there. Why not create a syndicate, put all of them into a group, each of them get a share, and now you have a big mining company that can go out and raise capital. You can do what each individual can't do. So what am I getting at? I'm getting at the idea that perhaps we need to rethink how we approach business and entrepreneurship. And maybe it's bringing market vendors into a group that creates a supermarket, or something like that. And all of a sudden now you're part of a larger entity that can do more. So those are types of things I'm going to be looking at. How do you bring different ideas to the table that can help the small man, the small vendor, to transform their thinking and transform their businesses?
Sister Doreen has a question here, and I know she's a businesswoman. She asks, please address beginning a business in an unequal playing field. And I guess she speaks there for a lot of African Guyanese entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, the unequal playing field.
Well, it just means it's tougher. It means it's tougher, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. Listen, Afro-Guyanese represent a significant part of the population. Even if you just sell to your own people, you could be relatively successful, right? So the playing field isn't level anywhere in the world. It's when I started, I'm a black man in the US that started a business. It wasn't level, but you've got to do a couple of things. You've got to create a product that people need at an affordable price. At the end of the day, businesses exist to make money. And if you create a product that people need at an affordable price, and you may start small, but then over a period of time, you build on that, and you build on it, and you build on it. That's the only way to do it. And sometimes you have to turn inside. Maybe you start, I don't know, depends on what you're selling. If you're selling, services or goods, you start by selling it to people in the community. You pool money, you pool resources. Access to capital is not going to be easy. So there may be discriminatory practices, but you cannot stop. You cannot give up. You have to look to alternative sources, lean on the diaspora. Is there something we can do to bring in the diaspora? The diaspora has not played a major role in the development of Guyana. Why? Have we come up with a model that can encourage the diaspora? There are lots of Guyanese in the diaspora, Afro as well as others, with money. Lots of them. But you have to have a model and a vehicle through which they can channel those monies. So what I'm saying, even in an unequal playing field, it's not easy. Please don't get me wrong. I don't want to dismiss the lady's question. So it's hard. It's very difficult, but it's possible. And you're going to have to lean on your collective resources.
Yeah, let me follow, and I'm glad you used the word collective. Let me follow up with that. So you've been stressing a lot in terms of individual initiative, the capacity to take risks, and so on and so forth. Is there not a place to level the playing field by a structural transformation and structural changes? Because I'm saying, I'm asking whether the thrust of the individual initiative is not, does not have a limit. That is, that a few may be able to go over the bump, but the vast majority of individuals would not be able to overcome the bump. Is there not the alternative struggle for structural changes in the entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial culture and architecture of the society?
I think so. I think so. I think, and I'm not in government, but perhaps, and I don't know enough about the small, we have a Ministry of Commerce, right? Tourism Industry and Commerce, or something like that. I don't know enough about their programs, but typically in most countries, you have a small business administration, and they're designed to do exactly what you're talking about, David. So what do they do in other places? The small business administration would say to banks, we guarantee the loans of these small businesses. We will provide a guarantee. That in turn allows the bank to make loans available to small businesses. You can do tax incentives. You can do loan guarantees. You can do grants, cash grants to businesses. There are several policy type things that you can do that goes to what you're talking about, David. These are structural type policy initiatives that government can do. Absolutely. Government can do a lot of things that structurally can aid and abet the small business person. And some of them, like I say, loan guarantees, cash grants, those types of things. Startup monies.
To answer this question, and I'm glad that Mr. Doreen came on because he made me remember it. Can business owners who already have businesses that are struggling, how can your bank help them?
Well, so it's I think what I would suggest is they come in, talk to us. We will take their ideas. We will listen to it. In fact, I had a small business, not small, a gentleman came in with an idea. And after listening to him, I realized he had an excellent idea, but it was packaged wrong. And so what I offered to do, which is a service we provide, is to come in and help you repackage and reimagine your business in a way that you can now go get financing. So it's not just a matter of, you can't just come into our bank and say, we're struggling, give us money and help us. We will take a look at your business model, and maybe the business model is what's wrong. Maybe your whole approach to the thing is wrong. If you ask, this is part, you have to define the problem, David. You have to start by defining what is the problem. If you don't define the problem, everybody will tell you the problem is money. And what I'm submitting to you, in many cases, it isn't money. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's not. So what we will do in those cases is to look at your business and try to start with what we call problem definition. What is ailing the business? If it's money and we can find the money to help you, then that's the problem. It may be expertise. It may be resources. It could be a number of things. So that's what we'll do.
And before I let you go, Sister Haynes is asking here, what will be the interest rate on the loans? You bet our people will go down to brass tacks. You say, boy, you talk. The big
Yeah. Well, so we don't. So we don't. Let me answer the question this way, and I'm not dodging the question. We don't make loans per se, and that's the point I was making. We invest in businesses. So you can't come to our bank and apply for a loan. If you're looking for a loan, that the retail banks do that. We invest in your businesses and we work with you, and we come up with something that's feasible for you and for us. We will go out and raise the capital and bring the capital for you, and we get fees for doing that. So we work more on a fee basis than an interest on loan basis.
Fee basis.
I hope I've answered the question.
Where are you located? What's the contact number? Because people are ready here to come knocking at your door.
We're located on Church Street, Georgetown, 304 Church Street. It's headquartered in Georgetown. We hope to branch out and have branches in other parts of the community. And you can get us now at New Haven NHMB, New Haven Merchant Bank, or newhaven.com. I don't remember the website off the top of my head, but it's New Haven Merchant Bank, Georgetown, Guyana. First merchant bank in 20 years, and we're open for business and ready to go.
And is there a Facebook page? I'm sure you must have that in.
Yes, we have a Facebook. We have a website. We're gonna do an Instagram and LinkedIn and all that good stuff. Some of it is in the works, and some of it is already up.
Mr. Floyd Hinds, the owner, leader of the team over there at New Haven Merchant Bank, the most recent bank that has been certified here in Guyana, the first one in 20 years. And they launched this past week. Floyd, I will have to bring you back for a module 2 of this, where we'll talk, we link banking with community, banking with young people, banking with women. We'll have that conversation when you come back next. And I do have work for you, because I want you to take you to some communities so that you can go into the communities and talk to people there. My brother, congratulations again, and the sentiments are shared here on Politics 101. I know the genesis of the idea, and the president said that the thing that you all are friends.
Yes.
And I think I can say we are friends. And,
of course, David, you and I go way back. I have lots of friends. I said at my presentation, the president is a good friend. I make no apologies. And David, you're also a good friend of mine. We go way back.
Yeah, way back.
Thanks for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah. And what an appropriate time to launch a bank.
It is.
At emancipation. And this is what emancipation. Thank you, my brother. And I'll be in touch with you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
And thanks to the audience. Thanks again.
Floyd Haynes there, brother, opening a bank, and very thoughtful, as you can see there, and you can hear from him. And sometimes we have to stop from the hard politics and really deal with some of this money issue. Money. Not money to capitalize on people and oppress people, but money for transformation and development. You know, we talk about empowerment all the time, but empowerment does not necessarily lead to development. You may empower individuals, but you're going to develop when you empower the collective. Then you're moving from empowerment to development. Well, as promised, I've got last night, I wondered aloud what the opposition is doing when the government is celebrating the second anniversary of its installment in power. And I wondered aloud and prayed aloud that the opposition would do something. And lo and behold, I saw a flyer last night. My picture, as we would say, my picture was on the flyer. They are doing something on August 2nd, a big rally in Georgetown. And here to give us the lowdown and tell us how this thing gonna work is a familiar face. People just tell me, once I was standing in a line in an airport in Puerto Rico, and I got a tap on my shoulder. When I looked around, it was a young lady. She said, Dr. Haynes? I said, yes. She said, don't worry whether you know me. I recognize you by your voice. There's a young man, you recognize him by his voice. Ganesh, hi, Paul. I want to be correct here because I don't want to say calling the name wrong because I'm a racist. Hi, Paul. Am I right?
You're perfectly correct. Perfectly correct. And you're one of few. You are one of few who gets it correctly.
There you go. There you go. I am not the type that usually talk about how many Indian friends I have and so on. I went to school with enough Indian people because I lived in a village. I was born and grew in a village, Buxton, where the front side of the village was populated by, at one time, 1/3 of the population in Buxton was Indian. And so up until the time I was at school, at Buxton Secondary School, about a good 15-20% of our classmates were Indians. And so you got to learn to pronounce Indian names correct. On our teachers, many of whom were African guys, insisted we learn to pronounce Indian words and Indian names right. So yes. So tell us, Ganesh, about this rally. I noticed that it is organized by APNU AFC Plus. Yeah. How did you all get the WPA into this thing?
Well, let me say first of all that the WPA has recognized that this regime is really doing some ungodly things to the people of Guyana. And when you look at the extrajudicial killing that has showed its ugly face again, you look at the crime rate, how it's escalating, and you look at the high cost of living among corruption, coupled with corruption, especially in what came out with the Vice News releases, pointing the second vice president, Bharat Jagdeo, in the direction of corruption. The WPA has recognized that they need to be a part of this force to challenge the installed regime. So what has happened is political parties and organizations that are not political have recognized that there is a need for us to have a joint operation to sensitize, educate, and bring our people up to date with what is happening in Guyana as we speak. And since the installation of this regime 2 years, close to 2 years ago, a lot has gone wrong. Majority, an absolute majority, has gone wrong. It started off with a man taking the seat at the highest level and cannot produce his qualifications. And then he put some members of his cabinet that have questionable character. And then they started to do the work, and it wasn't the work for all Guyana. It was the work for friends, families, and cronies. And then you see an increase in punishment reaching the majority of our people. So all of these things we recognized as sane individuals in this country that we need to speak out and speak up about it. And we have recognized that the best day that is suited for us to sound our voices resoundingly is the 2nd of August, which will mark 2 years for this installed regime. And we need to let our people know the facts. And we will be presenting the facts to our people at Burnham Court there in Georgetown at 4:30 on the 2nd of August 2022. And I want to use this opportunity to tell our viewers and to spread the word that they must come out and hear from our learned speakers and be educated, be entertained, and basically be familiar with what is happening in your country and how is it that you can play a role. How is it that you can play a meaningful role in ensuring that stability is returned to our country, development is returned to our country, and prosperity for all Guyanese is returned to our country. And on that basis, this collective action is taken to ensure that this rally becomes successful in educating our people as we rally against corruption, as we rally against the high cost of living, as we rally against crime on the increase, and as we rally against extrajudicial killing in our country.
And of course, you know that as opposition leaders, we've come under tremendous pressure from our support base for not holding activities in the open space. Of course, there was the COVID. There are also concerns about infiltration of protest activities. And so this is a very bold undertaking, I think, on the part of the opposition parties. It shows that you are listening to your own support base and you are beginning to move in that direction. So I suppose it's a rally of informing people, educating people, but also mobilizing people, right?
Definitely, you're accurate. And greater also is the fact that I want our viewers to understand, our people must understand, that they are responsible for us to be successful. They hold they hold it within their arms. The opposition members of parliament, we are just 31. And we represent over 218,000 plus votes as given to us by GCOM. But I have always said that I've witnessed the national recount and I've recognized the high degree fraud that took place at elections 2020. And I believe strongly that the coalition has more than 218,000 supporters and voters that voted for them. But notwithstanding that, Dr. Haynes, the people on the ground must understand that we are nothing without them. We are absolutely nothing without them. We are their servants. We have an obligation as politicians and leaders to inform them, and we have an obligation to ensure that they are well equipped to understand the direction in which the country has gone and where we intend to bring it back and take it forward. And this is all about bringing our people together, educating them on the ills of society currently that is headed by this installed regime, and to basically ensure that we become a movement for change, because change is necessary now more than ever. And we see it in all the actions of this installed regime, especially when it comes to who gets development, which community receives development, and these little handouts and these little hampers that they want to give others and want to call it as development and so on. All of these things are gross disrespect. I pass, shameful, disrespectful. And we have to clamp down on it, send a strong signal to the people of this country, to the installed regime, that the people of this country will not sit back, relax, and take this gross disrespect. We have to speak up and speak out now. And that is why it is important that we put on our bold faces, we put on our marching shoes or boots, and we march down to Burnham Square there, Burnham Ground, on the 2nd of August, 2022. And I think the location, if I'm not mistaken, is somewhere between Carmichael Street and Middle and Carmichael Street.
Opposite the small gardens, promenade gardens.
Yes, opposite the promenade gardens. Correct.
Right. And you are mobilizing people not just in Georgetown. You want people from the East Coast, the East Bank, the West Side, and even further afield to come down to this rally, right?
Definitely. I think it's going to be a huge, successful rally because a lot of our people are punishing. I think a great majority, an absolute majority of our people are punishing because of these measures that this installed regime has. And I believe that they are going to come out in their numbers. Of course, we will sensitize them on it, of course. But at the end of the day, I think the decision lies with them. And I know that they will take that sane decision. They will take that informed decision in their minds and come down to Burnham Court and let us rally against these unscrupulous behaviors of the PPP.
And of course, those people who are outside of Georgetown, you have your people on the ground who they can contact for possible assistance in getting down to Georgetown. No?
Most definitely, but I will not want to go down into details here on this public program because you know how vindictive those jagabats can be. And they may want to go in a direction of trying to stymie the movement of people in all ways and forms. But I can tell you that we have an active group all across this country in different regions doing what they have to do to ensure that people understand, know, and are informed about this activity. And we expect them to show up in their numbers.
Ganesh, you're a younger, passionate political activist. I don't like the term politician, so pardon me if I use the term political activist. And I've been following you since you were at university and heading the university group there. So I think I'm familiar with you. And you're a relatively careful young man about how you articulate positions. You're not a wild chap. But I said this morning on the program that I was on, Buckstone in Morning Time, that I feel after 25 years of the PPP, I've come to the conclusion that we cannot risk the PPP being in power by itself again. It's a danger to this country. And I'm saying that as someone who recognizes that all governments have sinned and come short of the glory, as the Christians would say. But there is something that is unique about this PPP government that really makes you want to sometimes puke. You know, the kind of crude way, you know, you go around the country and you throw money at people. You go to talk with some farmers, you throw money at them. You go, where is the place in this regime for economic planning? Where is the place for thoughtful distribution of wealth and resources? It's a raw government of the worst form. Reflect on that for me.
Dr. Hinds, we have to remember a couple of things. We have to remember, first of all, that this government is an illegitimate government. Illegitimate in the sense that the degree of fraud, the degree of discrepancies, anomalies, and abnormalities that were found in elections 2020 and as put in the elections petition to be heard will show and will prove that this regime is installed, this regime is illegitimate and does not enjoy the will of the people. But they nonetheless sit in the power chair. And because they sit in the power chair, they are using the taxpayers' money and they are using the taxpayers' resources to try and win people over. And they're trying to do it in a way where they believe that we Guyanese are not smart, and they believe as though we are going to gravitate towards small handouts. Like we are going to say, okay, you have given me $25,000, I'm going to vote for you tomorrow. Or you have given me a hamper for Christmas, I'm going to vote for you tomorrow. Or Emancipation Day is coming up, you have given me some food items to go and prepare a pot of cook-up or something for emancipation, we're going to vote for you. That is what this PPP is doing to our people. They are trying to hoodwink us. They're trying to bamboozle us. They're trying to make us what we are not. But I have a reminder for them. Our people are educated people. Our people are intelligent people. Our people can decipher when they are being fooled. And our people know where the real resources are going. They have seen who are pocketing the resources. And I have said from time and again that the People's Progressive Party, when they give the Guyanese people 1, they take 10 for themselves. And the people have recognized that. So I say that to tell you, Dr. Hinds, that because of their illegitimacy, because of their installed nature, because of the fraud that were found in elections, they're basically in a campaign mode. And they're going to pelt our resources all over the place, here, there, and everywhere, without any sound economic footing, without any sound planning for sustainability for the future generation, with the expectation that these people will give them a majority at the next election. But we have to, as a people, recognize that there is need for a clean voters list. Because when we go back to the next polls, the next election, it has to be meritorious. It has to be based on merit. And we have to start by ensuring that the list is clean, so we don't have that degree of fraud which we had at the last election. And with that, Dr. Hinds, I can say comfortably that the coalition will be back in power, because when you measure what the coalition did for the 5 years they were in office in comparison to what this PPP government has started and what they are doing right now to the people of Guyana, without a doubt the public servants want the coalition back. Without a doubt the doctors, the teachers, the nurses, the GDF men and women, the policemen and women, they want the coalition back in office. We had sound economic grounds to develop this nation solidly for the benefit of the current generation, with an aim of ensuring that there is sustainability for the future generation. We did not have a fragile Guyana. We did not have a Guyana where you have to beg now for one Guyana. We had a Guyana where brothers and sisters of different color, skin color, different hair texture, and all the likes could have unified themselves. That is the direction we were going at. Look at where we are now, Dr. Hinds. Look at where we are now. And you will agree with me, and your viewers will agree with me. The time for the PPP is up. They have stolen power. They are in borrowed robes. And it is time that they take off those robes, remove themselves from the chair of power, and allow the legitimate people who are in the APNU AFC to continue to deliver a good life for all our Guyanese. And I keep stressing the point, sustainability for the future generation.
The future generation. And before I put my next question to Mr. Mahai Paul, just want to thank those of you who have contributed to the Buxton 1st of August movement celebrations, observances this weekend. We start with a church service on Sunday morning at the Buxton Congregational Church, Arundel Church. And then we will be hosting the African royals, the African kings and queens who are visiting. We will host them at Tipperary Hall at 2 o'clock. We move at 6 o'clock to our libation at the Buxton Emancipation Monument, and then to the line top, where Yoruba singers will headline a host of cultural workers, actors, dancers, poetry reading. We will be there. People recognize that things have gone up, and I'll talk to Ganesh about that just now. And our budget had to be doubled, and thanks to those of you who have contributed. And thanks to my brother Yuri, who heard us complaining that our mobby might be short, our conky might be short because we can't get sugar. And Yuri called me today and told me, Dr. Haynes, I have about 50 pounds of sugar for you. Thank you so much, my brother. And this is what I mean by us as a people contributing. It's not just money, and it's not just marching, but also ensuring that the struggle is supported. Danish will tell you, when we put boots on the streets, it costs money. It costs money, you see? And I'm so glad that our people are beginning to recognize. Yuri, thank you so much. And the rest of you who contributed to that cause, thank you so much. I just came from a meeting of the 1st of August meeting, the 1st of August movement. And I can tell you, all the members were inspired because you helped to put smiles on their faces. And they're going to put smiles on the faces of Buxtonians. On the 1st of August, we have our village feast where we cook and we share to the elders and the children and others in the community. Again, bless you all, and thank you all so much for supporting. You are part of that team that was quote unquote suspended from Parliament. And I heard you yesterday at the press conference saying nobody has written you all. Of course, you all have gone to court saying that you were not given due process. Speak to that issue for us. Bring us
well, yesterday, indeed, at the press conference, I did say that I'm not sure if I'm suspended because no official letter has been sent to me, nor none of my colleagues who were allegedly suspended. I remind your viewers that on the day in question, we walked out of Parliament because we could not have sat there, Dr. Hinds, and participate in an act that is basically unusual, that is shameful and ridiculous from the part of the Speaker. The Speaker ruled before on 2 occasions that matters before the court are deemed sub judice. In the case of the flaring with Exxon Mobil, the Speaker ruled that a matter was filed and he called out the file name, indicating that the matter is sub judice. The same applies here. This matter was filed, it has a file number, and one would have expected that the Speaker would have operated in a similar manner and ruled that the matter is sub judice, but he did not. And since he was hell-bent on proceeding with the matter to debate the motion, and knowing that the PPP enjoys the majority in Parliament, of course, they would have gone in one direction to utter a suspension. But there is a track record of the National Assembly where when Bishop Edgill was raucous in his behavior towards Speaker Bartland Scotland. And you will remember during that budget period, he basically disobeyed the Speaker and did not want to remove himself from the National Assembly. And he was suspended for 4 sittings. He was written to almost immediately, indicating to him that he is suspended and all the penalties that come with the suspension. And then we have the other case of Sherrod Duncan, who was suspended in the most recent past. And he was also written to almost immediately, indicating to him what are the penalties of his suspension and officially notified. Yes, as of yesterday, when I spoke at the press conference, no letter came to me indicating I was suspended. But this morning I got a letter. This morning I got a letter from the clerk of the National Assembly notifying me officially that I was suspended from the National Assembly for 4 sittings, and he also spelled out what are the penalties aligned to that suspension. But lo and behold, Dr. Haynes, A couple of minutes after that, I got another letter. And in that letter that I got, the most recent one said that the first letter which the clerk sent is rescinded. So it is as though I'm not suspended again. So I was suspended one time, not suspended the other, suspended again, and not suspended again. I don't know what the hell these people are doing. I don't know what game they are playing. I don't know what they're deliberating on and debating on, but there is precedence when it comes to a suspension. But I think they're trying to derail the process that we have in court, because all of these are supporting documents that we will have to submit in our affidavit and our submission to the court to show the biased nature of the speaker and to basically strengthen our case that the law of natural justice was heavily breached when it comes to us, the members of parliament, suspended. And perhaps that is why they're trying to slow up this process and going back and forth on it. I don't understand why we can't get that letter. But if I can speak to the actual suspension now, in any court of law or in any competent jurisdiction, when someone is accused of something, or when you are accused of an offense, it is expected that you be given a hearing. That is how the system of democracy works. That is how Guyana's democracy works. A charge is not a proven offense. It was Forbes Barnum who said that. A charge is not a proven offense. When you charge someone, that someone is expected to defend himself. That someone is expected to put his case before the court or a competent tribunal. And that is enshrined in our Constitution. It is enshrined in our Constitution that everybody who is accused of an offense, they must be given a hearing. And that is why the Committee of Privileges was set up. The Committee of Privileges wasn't set up for mere mamagaying, or it wasn't set up for mere cosmetics. It was set up to give the members of parliament a fair trial or a fair hearing. And that is the competent authority in this case that is expected to hear the case out. What the Committee of Privileges did was to write the 8 MPs, and they indicated that we must show cause as to why we should not be suspended for gross disrespectful behavior, for gross disorderly behavior, and some other word they use. But the point is, what is gross disrespectful behavior? What is gross disorderly behavior? You cannot put those phrases together and don't define it for us who you're accusing of behaving in that manner. What did I do that was so grossly disrespectful? Was it because I was dressed in black and white? I wore a green tie? Was that gross disrespectful behavior? Was it because I stood and addressed the speaker as honorable when he is not? Is that gross disrespectful behavior? Was it because I looked at Gail Teixeira and said that you are talking lies in the National Assembly? Was that gross disrespectful behavior? So what we did, what the 8 MPs did, Dr. Hinds, we wrote back the Committee of Privileges and we asked them to be specific, to give us some specifics as it relates to this charge. Tell us what is it that we did that is so gross. And we are awaiting a letter from them. And we have our lawyer who has advised us that he is also awaiting to know what is the gross disrespectful behavior. And once you tell us, Dr. Hinds, what is it that we did wrong, once you be specific with us, then we will be able to show cause as to why we should not be disciplined, or we should be able to give you an information that you so seek. To our surprise, a report was crafted A report was submitted to the National Assembly. A report was moved by Gail Teixeira and adopted by the House. And to date, we are told we are suspended without any official letter. So we were never given a chance to be heard. And you know, Dr. Hinds, I must make this point. Anil Nandalal said, and I heard this, that the National Assembly has the right to make its own rules. That the National Assembly enjoys that privilege, and the court cannot play a role in that. The Assembly has that right, the Parliament. But I say to Anil Nandalal that I'm not no legal mind, but I have common sense. And I went to one of the most prestigious secondary schools in this country. And I was a student at the University of Guyana too. So I'm educated and I have common sense. The Parliament of Guyana, though it enjoys the privilege of making its own rules and regulations, it must act within the confines of the Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. And the Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Article 144.8, speaks to the law of natural justice, speaks to giving people a fair trial, speaks to a competent court or a tribunal enshrined in law to try the matter, to allow us to be heard, to allow the people to have a say, for them to make a case, not for you to arbitrarily decide without hearing them that they should be suspended. Utter nonsense. And if we are to follow Anil Nandalal's mindset and accept that the Parliament can do as it feels like and the court can't intervene, then what you are telling me is that the 33 PPP member and Schumann, who votes with them and sides with them all the time, they have that right, therefore, to pass a ruling that all opposition MPs should be killed or should be murdered, and the court can't do nothing about it. That is what you're telling me. You have to act within the confines of the Constitution. The Parliament, the executive and the legislative, the executive and the judiciary, the three arms of government, their overarching boss is the Constitution. The supreme law of our land is the Constitution. And that is something the Attorney General seems to not understand. And he should resign for those utterances.
And if those of you in the audience, you're looking for somewhere to ring in Emancipation on Sunday night, Emancipation Eve, come to Buxton. Yoruba singers, other artists will be there. Our feature speaker will be none other than Brother Nigel Hughes will be the feature speaker, and Sister Simona Blooms will also be a guest speaker. Sunday night, the 31st, come down to Buxton, where we will ring in what we call the African New Year, the African Guyanese New Year, which is August 1st. So come down to Buxton on Emancipation Eve. Of course, most of you will be going to the National Park on Emancipation Day for Agda's Folk Festival. So come to Buxton to ring in the New Year on Sunday night, and then you go to the National Park the next day. Brother Ganesh, one of the things that your group of parties, joint opposition parties, are going to asking people to rally about is the high cost of living. The other side is saying that it's COVID and it's the war in Ukraine. What says you?
But what is it that they are doing? What is it that they are doing about it? And that is the responsibility of a government. Installed as they are sitting in the highest office. So what is it that they are doing about it? Imagine sugar that is produced in this country, packaged in this country, and we as Guyanese have to line up for it. We have to line up for it. That is where we are in 2022. A product that is produced in this country, packaged in this country, and they campaigned, the PPP, They campaigned on making the sugar industry vital, and they campaigned on making it more effective and efficient. And look where we are, Dr. Hinds. When you go into the market now, $70,000 can't give you anything proper for a family of four, and minimum wage is $74,000. What is it that public servants are getting? Look at everybody, fisher folk getting money, rice farmers getting money, everybody getting money except the public servants. And it is not like if they're getting the money in any manner that is uniform across the board. There are selective ways in which they're doing it. People are being sidelined because of their political affiliation. People are sidelined because of their skin color, because of the village they are from. This government is a disgrace to this nation. They're an embarrassment to the people of Guyana. And I am ashamed to know that we have this kind of government in a time when we are supposed to be poising for rapid takeoff, when we are supposed to have economic dynamism that they promised. Look where we are. And you know, this kind of behavior, by them not doing anything about this high cost of living, it is really going to increase crime even more. It is going to cause our young boys and girls to go into unbecoming activities. The social ills of society will get higher, and it will become, and if they continue like this, it will become uncontrollable. And we are going to see problems in all forms. It saddens my heart, Dr. Haynes, to know that there are people out there who are poor, who are working for $74,000 to feed a family of four, a man, his wife, and two children. And he has to use that $74,000 to pay light bill, to pay water bill, to pay for grocery. And then, of course, the children, they will also want something to eat. Then there has to be some degree of entertainment. That is how a family live. That's how families are expected to live. You must have a comfortable income where your disposable income can give you a satisfactory life. And we don't have that in Guyana. There are people who work for $150,000 as their net take home, and they're finding it difficult. Imagine the people who are working for $74,000. And then in this age of technology, the school children deserve a little bit of internet. That comes at a cost also. And then on top of that, you are coupled with a set of bad roads in a series of communities. Infrastructure-wise, they're doing nothing positive. When they spend $3 billion to give us a road, the new highway they talk about, if that is the amount, I don't know the amount, I'm just calling a number there. But if they spend $3 billion to give us that Mandela to Eccles Road, they have destroyed over $6 billion of road to make that $3 billion road. You go into communities like Eccles, go into communities like Farm, go into communities like Providence, and you look at the roads there. These same big thunderous trucks that they have passing through, making $1 billion road, destroying $6 billion road that were already existing. So I don't know where this government is getting their ideas from and how they are deeming it. But it is very, very scary out there on the ground. Very, very scary for the ordinary folks. Very scary for the poor men and women out there. And I pity where we are. I am sad as a leader of this country as to where we are. And I say to my people that you have a golden opportunity on the 2nd of August. You have a golden opportunity on the 2nd of August to come out with us and sound your voices. Come out at the Bornham Court. Come out at Middle and Carmichael Street. Come out at 4:30 and let us rally against a high cost of living. Let us rally against crime that is on the increase. Let us rally against extrajudicial killing. let us rally against the PPPC, because they are responsible for the state we are in. And I oftentimes tell people, PPP means punish poor people. And that is what they are doing. And when they added that C, it is punish poor people, children. And that is what we are facing now. The PPP come back. And it is up to us. If we don't act, then they will act. And what they will do will cause greater harm to us and our future generation. Act now, Guyanese. Come out, speak up, and speak out. The 2nd of August at Middle and Carmichael Street, Barnum Court, 4:30. Rally against the PPPC.
Rally against the PPPC, 4:30. That's next week, Tuesday, the day after emancipation. So you will be all ready to use your bodies as a statement against things. Ganesh Mahaipal, Member of Parliament, member of the People's National Congress, hails from the West Side. From the West Side, good people over the river, as we used to say in the old days.
West Side is the best side.
The best side is the best side. You know what I'm talking about. Thank you, my brother. And from what I'm seeing here, people are expressing their solidarity with us, and many of them have said that they will be there. God bless you, and certainly I will have you back for a more. You haven't been on for a while. You've been hiding from Politics 101. We don't beat people on this program. We scold. We don't beat, and so on.
Well, you know, as one of your A students, I was giving way to the others. So,
all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me, Doctor.
Yes, and yes. And good night to the rest of you. Tomorrow night, we're going to be talking economics. I have Elson Lowe on, and we're going to have somebody else from the joint opposition parties come on and talk about that march tomorrow, because we want to give it as much coverage as possible. We come here in peace. We live in peace because we are peaceful people. We are loving people. We're not a stingy people. We share our love. We share our glory. We share our harvest. We are loving people. And loving people will always see their way. Good night. Until tomorrow night, when we meet again.